Hello, welcome to the Burn KC ScorchCast. My name is Alex Blackburn. I am your humble host of the Burn KC Sports Talk. Got a few things to talk about today. It's maybe a little shorter. I'm kind of feeling a little today. Got a bit of a stomach bug, but we're managing. I've been hydrating, taking that vitamin C, and a little bit of Pepto on the side as well, and I'm feeling a little better than I was this morning, so that's good. Got a few things to cover though, like I said. Obviously going to go into college basketball, going to go into the Royals, Chiefs, and Sporting Kansas City, as well as the Kansas City Blues. Unfortunately, I forgot to put out a Scorching Takes post. So we will be doing that this week. Now, I may make it a bi-weekly thing. I may make it or I guess be bi-weekly. Not sure. But probably gonna put something out regarding that tomorrow. My apologies for not getting it out this past week. I meant to do that, but last week was kind of busy. So fortunately, it just slipped through the cracks. However, like I said, got a good show planned for you today. So let's just jump into it. Let's do it. Yeah. Good show. Alright, starting out strong with some college basketball here. We had some not very great performances from the local teams this past Saturday. It was kind of rough. Let's start out with kind of the roughest performance of all of them. Kansas State. We'll get to KU. I know they lost by more, but they lost to a much better team, which is not saying much in the Big 12. But we're starting off with Kansas State. Deal with it. They dropped against West Virginia, 81-89. This was in West Virginia's building in Morgantown. Big senior night win for the Mountaineers, who keep their tourney hopes alive with this win as well. This is a signature win. Really, anybody in the Big 12 can make the tournament at this point, but it's a matter of kind of who performs in the Big 12 tournament, which is going to be absolute insanity. I can tell you that right now. But it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to watch. But we'll get to that. Let's kind of talk about K-State. Does this set the tone for the postseason, this loss, or does it just take it with a grain of salt and move on? I would say take it with a grain of salt and move on. K-State's a great basketball team. They can be a little bit inconsistent at times, but when you have guys like Marquise Noel and Keontae Johnson just performing night in and night out, you really can't go wrong. They kind of suffer, however, from the same poison as Kansas does, where they depend too much on their stars and end up getting burnt because of it, because they don't have that bench production, or they don't have production from the other starters. So we kind of saw that here against West Virginia. It wasn't pretty, and they ended up losing. So I think a lot of people are kind of tournament focused at this point. That's kind of the big thing right now for teams that are trying to move up in seeding or trying to make the tournament in general. So these last games are kind of, they may set the tone, they may not. We'll just kind of have to see. But yeah, Kansas State walked through this one, and you hope that it doesn't translate into bad juju for the Wildcats. But some good news. The All Big 12 team came out today, as well as just the postseason awards. Marquise Noel and Keontae Johnson are both Big 12 first-teamers. That's a big one. I think they both performed miraculously this year. I think Marquise Noel is one of the most impressive point guards in the country, as well as Keontae Johnson just being an impressive forward down low and creating the scoring opportunities, as well as performing decently on defense. You got Marquise Noel, who is also on that all defensive team, uh, doing some work defensively. But Keontae Johnson had his moments as well. But Noel made the all defensive team, and Johnson made the all newcomer team. So big ups to a K State basketball program that a lot of people in the preseason kind of just predicted them dead in the water. But Jerome Tang, Keontae Johnson, and Marquise Noel, along with a whole host of kind of side characters that definitely played their part, um, certainly made noise this year. I mean, being ranked as high as fifth at one point in mid-January, all the way to now, where they are bordering between 2 and 3 seed. It's exciting stuff. I don't think anybody at all predicted this for the Kansas State Wildcats. I think a lot of people saw a rebuilding year, and they saw a team that wasn't going to do all that well this year, and they exceeded expectations by far. As for the tournament, I think in the Big 12 tournament, they can certainly go out and win it, depending on, again, which Kansas State team shows up. But overall, I think they have as good a chance as anybody to win the Big 12 tournament. In terms of the NCAA tournament, the NCAA tournament is kind of a bit harder to predict. Well, it's not as hard to predict as the Big 12 tournament, and let's be honest here. Um, but it's still hard to predict. I think K State will stay at that 3 seed line, the high 3 seed line. They may sneak into the low 2 seeds depending on how they do in the tournament, as well as how the teams above them perform. But overall, they're probably sticking to that 3 seed. Probably going to get put in either the South or the Midwest, I would say. Um, and just overall, if they end up playing in Kansas City, that's going to be big for them. If they end up playing anywhere else, it's fine too. I think they'll have a solid chance at making some noise in the NCAA tournament, especially if they end up in Kansas City. Um, I think what we have in terms of the Big 12 are teams that can just go out there, go on a win streak, and kind of did what North Carolina did last year and just, again, go out there, go on a win streak, and make it all the way to, Elite Eight, Final Four, national championship, even. I think the national championship team resides in the Big 12. I truly believe that. And I think K State's got as good of a chance as any of those teams to make it there. So we'll definitely see where it goes. Going to be an exciting Big 12 tournament, going to be an exciting NCAA tournament. And I think Kansas State's going to definitely play their part. Again, kind of determined by if Marquise Noel and Keontae Johnson can perform, as well as the guys around them. And they can just keep consistent all the way until, obviously, the national championship, if that is what they are destined for. Another team that could possibly make a run for the national championship is Kansas. They took a bad loss to Texas in Austin. Kind of an expected loss if we're being real honest here. I don't think Bill Self necessarily rested the guys, but you definitely saw that this was a team that was not being 100%, that was kind of playing lackadaisical, playing with not a whole lot of heart out there. And you hope that translates, or you hope that doesn't translate if you're a Kansas fan, into a postseason slump. I think it was a bad loss, but you take it on the chin and you move on. You can't dwell on it. It's not a loss that means all that much. You still won the Big 12 outright. So I wouldn't pay too much attention to it. That window for the number one overall seed is kind of slipping, and if you were to beat Texas, you probably would have secured that spot. But again, we'll have to see how the Big 12 tournament goes. The Big 12 tournament is going to be kind of the determinant of where Kansas will end up in terms of that one seed line. I think they're a guaranteed one, but um, it all just depends on how they perform in the Big 12 tournament, much like Kansas State. And I think if Kansas can go out there and win the Big 12 tournament and win with authority, really, they can definitely make a case for being the number one overall seed, especially in such a tough conference like the Big 12. Obviously, you've got Bama and Houston up there as well. I don't think Houston deserves the number one overall seed. You look at their quad one wins, they're not all that impressive. You look at their conference, it's not all that impressive. And if you saw them against Memphis, they don't look like the dominant team that everybody says they are. Or at least everybody that, is a Houston fan, I guess. But the Houston team does not look like a team that is any better than the Kansas Jayhawks. In fact, they look like a team that's a lot worse, really. Um, I'm not saying that because, oh, you're just a Big 12 Kansas homer, blah, 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 blah. No, this is a team that just has not impressed all year. And unlike Kansas, who has impressed. And with those impressive performances, Jalen Wilson's, they may have lost against Texas, but Jalen Wilson still got a double-double. And leading into that, he won Player of the Year. And he's a Naismith finalist for a reason. I mean, he is one of the best basketball players in the nation, and Houston really doesn't have a guy that stands out a ton. I mean, they've got good team play, but overall, there's not a guy that is deserving of being on that Naismith watch list, in my opinion. And this is not a team that doesn't deserve to be the number one overall seed. So, the Bama loss certainly helps KU's case, but you would probably like to see win over Texas just to make things, a little easier. That way, you don't have to go through the tournament to earn that one seed, that number one overall seed. But going back into the individual players, like I said earlier, the All Big 12 awards were announced. Jalen Wilson, unanimous player of the year. First team All Big 12. DeJuan Harris was defensive player of the year. Kevin McCullough. Wait, I may have gotten those facts wrong. My apologies. Yeah, my sincere apologies. It was one of them. I guarantee you it was one of them. Jerome Tang won Coach of the Year too. Speaking back on the Kansas State Awards, KJ Adams winning Most Improved Player. Going back to KU. Sorry, I'm jumping around a lot. Got unanimous Newcomer of the Year, Keontae Johnson. Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year, DeJuan Harris. So I was right in the Harris Defensive Player of the Year. My apologies. I should have trusted my notes. I'm silly. I thought I had saw something different on Twitter. Fake news. I digress. But Kevin McCullough earned the All Big 12 third team, as well as being on that All Defensive team with DeJuan Harris. Grady Dick earning a spot on the All Big 12 newcomer team, as well as a second team All Big 12. So overall, Jayhawks made out like bandits in the best conference in basketball. And if that doesn't tell you that they deserve the one seed, I don't know what does. This being said, as far as tourney predictions go, again, you win the Big 12 tournament, you're the number one overall seed, you go to the South, you don't do so well in the Big 12 tournament, you lose in like the semifinals or something, which I think they have an automatic bid to the quarterfinals, so it's not like that matters. But if you lose in like the semifinals or something, or lose in the championship even, you'll probably be the number one seed in the Midwest. which again goes through Kansas City, which could be good for the Jayhawks, could psych them out a little too. Jayhawks have been known to sometimes play well in the T-Mobile Center and sometimes not. Um, but overall, they got to get there first, and Des Moines, depending on how the bracket goes, um, could also prove to be a tough test. Um, as far as other tournament predictions go, we could definitely see a Kansas team that just commands their bracket, their quadrant, um, and makes a run, like I said earlier, much like Kansas State could. Or this is really a sink or swim Kansas team. This is a team that could easily make the national championship and win it again. But this is also a team that could also either go out in the first or second round. I would hope that they wouldn't go in the first round, given the fact that they're going to play a 16 seed, but that second round may prove to be a bit of a challenge, as well as the Sweet 16. Um, but, overall, both Kansas teams have an opportunity to be that Big 12 team that makes it to the Final Four / national championship. Like I said, I think what we have is a a conference that will produce the national title finalist or the national title winner. And I don't think there's really a doubt in my mind, given how tough this conference has been. But again, we'll see what happens. Should be a good couple weeks of postseason basketball. March is here, everybody. March is in fact here. And bracket time is right around the corner. With that being said, I will get more into some bracket stuff later. But we got to talk about Missouri, too. Missouri was the lone local program that got a win this past Saturday. They had a tight one against Ole Miss, but still won 82-77. Big win there, not too bad. SEC hasn't released the all-conference list yet, so we won't know which Missouri team or which Missouri guys will make that list, but I expect Missouri guys to be on those lists. Kobe Brown, Golston, Moy Hodge, and Nick Honor are just a few names on that roster. Yes, I know I named 4 of their 5 starters, but that's really, what we've seen from Missouri is a team full of guys that can just like that have the performance of their lives and have just really performed well in certain games and then just again kind of fallen flat on their face in others. This is again another sink or swim team, but this is a team that is even more sink or swim than the Kansas Jayhawks because I think the Kansas Jayhawks have proven themselves to be a 1 seed. They've proven themselves to be one of the best teams in the nation, and they've proven themselves to be a squad that will do damage in the tournament. As for Missouri, they've secured a tournament bid, but they're probably going to be in the 6 to 8 seed range, I would say, unless they go out and win the SEC championship, which in that case they could jump as high as the 4 seed. But you've got teams like Texas A&M, you've got teams like Alabama, Tennessee, and Auburn even, in Kentucky too, even though they're not nearly as good as they've been. That could definitely hinder that journey. But again, the SEC tournament should be a good one. We'll see what comes there. And Vanderbilt too is another team that may very well give Missouri a run for their money. In the SEC, of course. As for the NCAA tournament, it all depends on how the bracket turns out. I think there are teams that are much worse than Missouri making the NCAA tournament. There's also teams that are light years ahead of Missouri making the SEC tournament. If they get an easy bracket, I can see them going the distance. If they don't get an easy bracket. It all depends on which Missouri team decides to show up. Is it the one that we saw earlier in the year that beat teams like Kentucky, Illinois, and others very with ease, or are we going to the Missouri team that lost to Auburn by 30? It all depends on which Missouri team shows up. Again, they're probably the most sink or swim team out of the three local colleges, yet they're the only team that won this past Saturday. That shows you, kind of shows you how goofy college basketball has been um, over the past year, this past season. Um, Overall, I am predicting a very fun tournament, and I predict all three local schools will make at least some noise. Whether that be good or bad noise, we'll see. But yeah, it should be a good tournament. Overall, you really couldn't. I think it was a great first year for Dennis Gates in this program. I think he, again, like Jerome Tang, came in, had a roster full of transfers or guys that had been there for 4 years, 5 years, and turned it around and said, "Hey, this is a team that can win. This is a team that can blow ranked squads out of the water." Um, but the he's still a new coach, and this is still a roster that is still kind of feeling things out, even though we're in March now. And I think if Missouri can find the team that beats those ranked teams by, 15 points, then yeah, they could easily make a Sweet 16, an Elite Eight, or even a Final Four. Um, but again, this is a hot Missouri team or a cold Missouri team. So overall, should be a good tournament. Anyway, on to the Royals. Royals are 9-2 in spring training. And I know that we've seen this before from the Royals where they do just amazing in spring training and there's so much hype going into the season. I mean, it's kind of the same old song and dance. The Royals have always had a good farm system. They've got young performers that can just outclass the other major league teams, young guys. And we've kind of seen that with this one as well. But we've also seen some mainstays getting some good performances in. It started really with big offense, really big offense, like an average of like 7 runs a game offense, which is a complete far cry from last year where the Royals struggled to muster up even 5 runs throughout a game. I think what we're seeing is a team that is offensively focused now and a team that has that sort of that hitting power that was missing for so long from the Royals. I mean, you've got Vinny Pasquantino, you've got MG Melendez, Bobby Witt Jr., and even Hunter Dozier, a guy that's been around a while, as guys that are making some noise with the bat. I mean, uh, quite a few RBIs among them. They're guys that are leading this offense on a charge to where they score 6 to 7 runs a game, maybe more. The lone game that they didn't do that was against the Brewers, where they lost, I think, 10-4. Um, and that kind of started with pitching. Pitching is still doing fine. Don't get me wrong. There's still been some good performances, and it's looking marginally better than. Well, the coaching is looking a lot better. With the arm talent is, it's there. It needs work, but it's there, and I think with time, this new coaching staff can certainly build that up. But you've got guys like Brad Keller that are throwing really well in spring training pitching. Um, no surprise that Brad Keller is doing that, though. He is kind of the guy that epitomizes the Royals in player form. Guy that does really, really well early in the season, looks like an all-star early in the season, and then kind of has that mid-season slump, and then starts doing well again when the games don't matter. But that's not a shot at Brad Keller. That's just kind of me stating what I see from him and what I see from the Royals. But overall, I think a lot of Royals pundits and Royals fans are very wary of an excellent spring season. We have seen this same old song and dance before, like I said before. And you hope it turns into good regular season performances. Man, you can win the Cactus League all you want, Royals, but you got to start winning those regular season games. And I think with a management that is just starting up and is just getting off the ground in their first year, as well as a lot of very young core, um, it's hard to predict a good regular season for the Royals. Um, I'm not saying they're going to do terrible, but I'm certainly not saying that they will be a team full of all stars that makes the postseason and just runs through everyone. Much like the 14 and 15 Royals. Um, that's that this team is certainly not them. Let's just say that. But this is a refreshing Royals team so far. It's nice to see them getting wins, even if they are just spring training wins. Um, it's nice to build these young guys' confidence up and uh, get them that time to again build their game up. Like I said, um, and with a young core like that, spring training is all important. And these early games are going to be all important. But we have to see it translate to the regular season. The only way you're going to be able to pay for this new ballpark, that you're going to get butts and seats, is if you perform well in the regular season. Not all of us can afford a yearly trip to Arizona to go watch the Royals do well and then go. And they come back to Kansas City and for some reason just drop the ball entirely. It's kind of a tired gimmick at this point. And you want to see the Royals do well. You want to see this spring training success translate to regular season success. But again, I think the Royals fan base is apathetic. I think the Royals fan base is plenty wary of this situation. And I think the Royals fan base is not counting their ducks before they hatch. Um, and boy, howdy. They, again, what we see from this Royals team is a very new and inexperienced roster. So that matters a ton when it comes to these regular season successes. And we'll just have to see where it goes. I mean, it's again past me, one that you know didn't really take into their regular season or their spring season yeah, their spring season successes would be like, oh man, the Royals are gonna go to the World Series this year. But again, knowing this team and knowing that they've had success in the spring and they've had success, in those early games, but then just wrap the bed in the mid-season. I'm cautious. I'm optimistic, but I'm cautious. And I want to see the Royals do well so darn badly. But I think everyone does, and I think everyone is, again, cautiously optimistic about this Royals team. So, Where does that leave the Royals? I hope they can go out and win the spring training league, to go out and win the Cactus League. That would at least be a good moral victory. Um, but I think a lot of people are already focused on, at the very least, being above 500. So we'll see where the Royals can go. So, moving on to some Chiefs news, some offseason Chiefs news. Not a ton just yet. Obviously, we had the NFL Combine this past weekend, which was pretty exciting. Lots of good performances from a few local products as well as um, guys that may or may not be on the Chiefs' radar. Obviously, it's really unpredictable what the Chiefs will do in this draft because there are a bunch of iffy positions on the Chiefs. That includes wide receiver, that includes edge rush, that includes a tackle. I mean, when you have this much free agency up in the air still, and this many questions about your roster, at this point, it's extremely hard to predict where they'll go in the draft. But I think after the combine here, they've definitely got some good notes on who to pick when those positions become clear, I would say. And overall, there's a lot of speed in this draft. And I think the Chiefs have always capitalized on speedy guys. They don't dominate you with smash mouth football. They will come at you with speed and technicality. And that's how the Chiefs have always been. Um, so when it comes to the NFL Combine, this is a really, really good draft class for the Chiefs at any position, really. So we'll just have to see where they go. Again, the NFL Combine definitely made things a little bit clearer in terms of who can perform and who can't. Obviously, that's just physical abilities. You got to be watching film and stuff too. But overall, it's definitely a good determinant as to who might be um, up there when it comes to be draft day in Kansas City here in about a month and some change. Pretty excited. Other Chiefs news, you got potential DeAndre Hopkins trade on the table. Um, uh, gosh, this one is tough. Do we want DeAndre Hopkins, or are we just like, we don't have a star wide receiver, let's go get D Hop? You imagine the Chiefs with their star wide receiver, blah, 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 blah. Well, we saw the Chiefs with the star wide receiver. His name was Tyreek Hill. And honestly, we already have a star receiver in Travis Kelsey. Now, would I say that DeAndre Hopkins wouldn't be a benefit? Absolutely not. I think he absolutely would benefit this team. Um, but let's focus on re signing Juju, working out some sort of deal with our current free agents before we go pursue. I think that is what Brett Veach is saying to his front office right now. This is how he was last year. Mind you, yeah, I know he let Tyreek Hill walk, but sacrifices do have to be made. The Chiefs can't go out and just grab anybody that they can grab. And it's not, it's the Mahomes contract. It's this, it's that. It's not the Mahomes contract. It's the fact that Brett Veach really plays it safe when it comes to the free agency market and the trade market. I think he goes with guys that are safe options. And I saying that DeAndre Hopkins isn't a safe option, not necessarily, but he is getting up there in age. He's had some troubles with suspension and injury, and really has not been his same old dominant self. I think he's past his prime. Um, and you can argue, well, this, that, and the other thing. He has better yards than wide receiver A, B, and C, blah, 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 blah. We saw what picking up receivers past their prime did to teams like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Julio Jones, no less. I think Julio Jones is a little bit further past his prime than DeAndre Hopkins for sure. But there is still that question of, okay, like, can we see another marquee season from DeAndre Hopkins, or is he done? Is he going to underperform for the rest of the year or for the rest of his career? We'll just have to see. I think there's safer options when it comes to free agency and wide receivers, including re-signing Juju. I think that's a better idea. I think you let Mecole Hardman walk for sure, but re-signing Juju definitely is a priority. I think, at least for the Chiefs. Um, but overall, it's all up in the air. Like I said, there's a lot of questions to be answered, and there's a lot of questions to be answered by the people that know what they're doing and that we can trust. And that's Brett Veach, Andy Reid, and the people that make the team that's made the AFC Championship multiple years in a row and has made the Super Bowl 4 out of the 5 years. It won it twice. No, sorry. I am a dingus. They have made it 3 out of 4 years and have won it twice. You know, golly. I don't know. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm kind of tired. It's somewhere in that area. The point being is the Chiefs are a successful program and they're a dynasty at this point. And you have to put your trust in guys that have shown that they know what they're doing, i.e., Brett Veach, Andy Reid, etc., and not argue on Twitter about, well, I'm gonna play GM here, and I want to sign everybody. Yeah, I get it. That's sometimes what I do too. But frankly speaking, I trust Brett Veach more than I trust myself when it comes to those football decisions. And I can play all the Madden I want. I can watch all the football I want. I can do this, that, and the other thing. Brett Veach is probably going to find a way to exert some black magic on this Chiefs team and make them into world beaters again. Um, but we'll just have to see. Like I said, a lot up in the air for the Chiefs. But what isn't up in the air is Travis Kelce's SNL performance and Creed Humphrey, too. Travis Kelce hosted this past Saturday Night Live with Heidi Gardner, and I think there was a musical guest that was also from Kansas City. I can't remember her name. My apologies. But Creed Humphrey was there too. He did a guest star in a skit, and Travis Kelce looked like he had a career ahead after football. Um, he definitely has a stage presence and is really funny too. So I mean, we already knew he was really funny, and like we've seen his podcast. But overall, he had a really good Saturday Night Live performance, and I commend him for that. So ending the Chiefs segment on a good note. Congrats to Travis Kelce on hosting Travis. Congrats to Travis Kelce on hosting Saturday Night Live. You did well. We're proud of you. Kansas City's own, Cincinnati's own, Cleveland Heights, excuse me, not Cincinnati. He doesn't claim Cincinnati. I promise you, he doesn't. He may claim the university. He doesn't claim the city. He's from Cleveland Heights, y'all. But, anyways, moving on to Sporting Kansas City. All right, so for Sporting Kansas City, second game of the season went better than the first. They ended up tying a very, very good Colorado Rapids team, a team that um, constantly contends for the MLS playoffs. They they tied them. And for a developing squad like, you know, Sporting Kansas City is, with, those few veterans sprinkled in, this was a solid outing. Um, Not good, not great, not bad either, though, but solid. And what made that just a solid, just an okay performance was Sporting Kansas City still had a ton of chances, but just still couldn't capitalize. They still have not scored a goal this year. And they have had so many chances. This offense has created a ton of opportunities for itself. They just can't finish. Um, and part of that is just getting shots on goal. I mean, you got to create those in goalie box chances. And it's just not happening for Sporting Kansas City. You got to capitalize off transition. You got to capitalize off the time of possession that you command. They didn't have the advantage in time possession this game, but they certainly did in the last game, and they still lost. Um, we've seen a dynamic, a potentially dynamic offensive attack from Sporting Kansas City, but it's just not materializing into goals. And there has to come a point where it's got to happen. Otherwise, you're just going to keep on putting up goose eggs. There's and how to improve that. I'm not a soccer guy myself. But the simple man's answer is, oh, just score more goals. It's way easier said than done. A lot of people are like, well, I can score goals at the MLS level. I can score goals. What are you talking about? It is so much harder than you think it is. It's not just simply kicking a ball around like UFC president Dana White says. Um, there's a lot of dynamics that go into it, and frankly speaking, at the MLS level, those are guys that have mastered their craft. Um, Obviously, MLS is not the greatest soccer league in the world. That title more than likely belongs to the Premier League or La Liga, or not La Liga, La Liga España. I think is what they are called. Um, my apologies if that is not what they are called. I know La Liga is the Mexican league. But continuing on, just overall, the chances are there. You just got to capitalize if you're Sporting Kansas City. It's kind of played out at this point. Um, I get it, it's only the second game of the season, but you are creating chances and you're not capitalizing. That's going to get very, very frustrating for this fan base at some point, and you gotta change it around, and you have to. Otherwise, Sporting Kansas City may fall into a hole that is similar to the Royals' hole. Um, this team hasn't won a championship since 2013, and this is supposed to be one of the MLS's better clubs. Kansas City's supposed to be a hotbed for soccer, and they got to prove that with their performance. And so far, this year has proven to be just okay. And just okay is not okay for Peter Vermees, that's for sure. And I'm sure he will make adjustments to where those goal opportunities will show themselves more and the team will capitalize. So we'll just have to see. So, alrighty, and finally some Blues news. Player meeting was last night. Was a ton of fun going out to not Funky Town as it was too crowded, but Neon Wild for the Kansas City Blues was a ton of fun. Glad I got to see a lot of faces that I hadn't seen for a while. Um, and just have a great time with the guys. It was a great team bonding experience. Saw a lot of new faces as well as older ones, and it was great. And definitely set the tone for what should be a fun spring season. Practice is going to be starting up this next week. First game is going to be a travel game down to Dallas, I believe, for that very first matchup. They'll be going against the Dallas Harlequins. Should be a excellent game. Dallas Harlequins are a good team. So, but should be a great spring season. I'm really excited. Um, and if you are a former high school athlete or college athlete and you've been looking to get back into the game, or you're just looking to get active, go out and go play rugby. It's a great time with the Kansas City Blues. You don't have to have any experience at all. We got great coaches for that. And you know, you'll have fun. You'll make friends. You'll do everything that your mom wants you to do with your adult life. Have fun, make friends, and do work. Do some good work for the club, right? I don't know. But that's our show. Um, Again, apologies for the kind of shorter show. I know that this is not an hour long like the last one was, but it's a good thing. I kind of want to keep these a little bit more concise. Um, but I also want to get to everything that I want to get to. And sometimes that can be hard to do in under an hour. um, but thank you all for joining me nonetheless. I very much appreciate it. One more announcement, be on the lookout for number one, the Scorching Hot Takes segment, to where you guys can put in all your opinions, all your discussion topics, and all your burning questions into the comments on that post, and I will read them and respond. Um, but also, the Burn Bracket Challenge is coming up. Selection Sunday, mind you, is 1 week from today. And boy, howdy, am I ready. And if you like brackets as much as I do, I'm sure you'll be ready too. It's going to be $5 entry fee. So just pay $5 and have a chance at winning the pot. Should be a great time. Should be hopefully some great participation as well. I'm looking forward to it. Bracket challenges are a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun with fantasy football. And college basketball and bracketology and all that is a phenomenon when it comes to March. And it's tons of fun. So don't hesitate to join in. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, don't hesitate to message me on socials or anything like that. If you know me personally, you can message me personally as well. I don't really care. But just if you don't know me personally, please don't message me personally. Go to the Burn KC. Go to the Burn KC site, please. I would rather you not message me personally. That's kind of creepy. But like I said, $5 for the bracket challenge. And here in about probably tomorrow, honestly, I will be getting that up and running. But other than that, again, that's our show. That's all I have. Sorry for the no scorching hot takes segment this week, but unfortunately, I forgot to post it because it's been a really busy week. And yeah, stuff just falls through the cracks sometimes. But um, promise not to forget this week. I also will have that bracket challenge link up on the website, on the socials, on everything from tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that. But this has been the Burn KC ScorchCast. I have been your host, Alex Black. Thank you all for joining me. Have a great night, and we'll see you later.